Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about, is Kriya Yoga scientific? Many Kriya Yoga teachers and practitioners have evoked scientific models to help legitimize the practice of Kriya Yoga in a modern world that is often skeptical of ancient religions. But are these claims of the scientific nature of Kriya Yoga actually valid? And do they shed light on why Kriya Yoga is so effective as a meditation practice? In this video, we will examine the validity of these claims as well as explore the context in which these discourses emerge to help us answer the question, is Kriya Yoga scientific? Paramahansa Yogananda was one of the first teachers to make claims about the scientific nature of Kriya Yoga. In his autobiography of a yogi, he asserts that the operative mechanism in Kriya Yoga is the decarbonization of the blood. He writes, Kriya Yoga is a simple psychophysiological method by which the human blood is decarbonized and recharged with oxygen. The atoms of this extra oxygen are transmuted into life current to rejuvenate the brain and spinal centers. By stopping the accumulation of venous blood, the yogi is able to lessen or prevent the decay of tissues. The advanced yogi transmutes his cells into pure energy. So while Yogananda is trying to take a scientific spin on the ancient practice of pranayama, intentional breathing used in Kriya Yoga, his explanation about the decarbonization of blood falls short because it doesn't accurately describe what is happening in Kriya Yoga. Kriya pranayama doesn't remove carbon dioxide from the blood, but what does remove carbon dioxide from the blood is hyperventilation. Hyperventilation involves breathing faster and deeper than normal, which rapidly causes CO2 levels in the blood to drop, leading to symptoms like lightheadedness, increased heart rate, and tingling of the extremities. These are not the symptoms of the effect of Kriya Yoga, which includes a slow heartbeat, adequate flow of the blood, and a strong centered presence in meditation. Yogananda's scientific claim of Kriya Yoga in this case is clearly incorrect. But does this mean that Kriya Yoga isn't scientific at all? And does it even matter whether or not Kriya Yoga is scientific? One of the things that attracts many people to Kriya Yoga is the idea that it is scientific. This means that when one applies a simple formula, in this case the technique of Kriya Pranayama and related practices, one gets the predictable result of pratyahara, internalization. This is a basic cause and effect relationship, which is really the hallmark of the scientific method. Cause X equals effect Y. When we look at Kriya Yoga from the perspective of neuroscience, there are actually observable effects on the brain and central nervous system. These effects include the slowing down of the breath, which makes sense considering that pranayama is a form of intentional breathing. This also includes the slowing down of the heart rate. And this is more curious as it's not an expected result of intentional breathing necessarily. While it's true that slowing down one's breath and being relaxed will slow down the heart rate, Kriya Yoga does this in a very big way, similar to what you would experience in deep sleep. The other observable effect of Kriya Yoga is that you can shift the brainwave patterns from beta, waking consciousness, into alpha, theta, and even gamma while one is still conscious. This is highly atypical for the waking state. The other thing is that there can be an activation of the right hippocampus, which is connected with spatial awareness in the brain, what some have called the right brain shift. We also often see the activation of the left amygdala, which is associated with feelings of deep joy. As with other meditation modalities, Kriya Yoga has other effects in the brain and nervous system. There are many studies that suggest long-term meditation practitioners have greater volume of gray matter in brain regions associated with executive functioning, emotional processing, and stress regulation, potentially protecting against age-related decline. Other effects include the enhanced production of beneficial neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine, which are associated with happiness and emotional well-being, and also the modulation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis, which stabilizes levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Building on the idea of Kriya Yoga as scientific, some claim that Kriya Yoga is reducible entirely to processes in the brain. This is often articulated in terms of a shift from the left, the logical side of the brain, to the right, intuitive side of the brain. The neurocentric viewpoint in this case is both a claim to scientific authenticity and a reductionist perspective that attempts to separate Kriya Yoga from its philosophical roots. This is part of a larger discourse of scientific materialism. Scientific materialism, often referred to as physicalism in contemporary philosophy, asserts that the ultimate reality is matter and its interactions as described by the physical sciences. According to scientific materialism, matter is primary. The fundamental substance of the universe is physical matter and energy, which exists independently of human minds. Consciousness is seen as just a derivative. Mind, consciousness, and mental states are not fundamental, but are rather emergent properties or byproducts of complex material processes. This view further states that knowledge is primarily acquired through sensory experience, observation, and empirical evidence. The scientific method, according to scientific materialism, which includes hypothesis, experimentation, observation, and confirmation, is considered as the most reliable path to truth. Reality can be objectively known and described, and truth corresponds to an accurate description of the mind-independent physical world. Despite its claims, however, scientific materialism suffers from a major flaw. It is unable to fully account for the non-physical aspects of reality, particularly consciousness. This is often referred to as the hard problem of consciousness. This includes qualia, the subjective, qualitative aspects of experience. For example, what is it like to taste a lemon, or to see the color red, or to feel pain? Critics of scientific materialism argue that a purely physical description of the brain's activity, like the firing of neurons, cannot capture or explain the internal, felt quality of these experiences. There is also an explanatory gap between the physical facts, like brain processes, and the experience of consciousness. Materialism claims that conscious states are physical states, but critics argue that this identity cannot be demonstrated or explained. Bernardo Kastrup, the Dutch philosopher and proponent of analytical idealism, states that physicalism is an incoherent concept because it claims that quantities give rise to qualitative reality, which is like trying to pull the territory from a map. Kastrup suggests that the physicalist worldview is a psychological defense mechanism that allows for neurotic ego defense by denying the reality of emotions and protecting the ego from the great angst of humankind about death and the unknown of the experiential realm beyond physical existence. These philosophical perspectives aside, what is the point of yoga? The highest goal of yoga is to achieve a state of enlightenment or liberation, moksha, which means overcoming all forms of suffering and realizing one's true nature. The word yoga means to yoke or to join, and a core aim of yoga is to foster a union between mind, body, and spirit. This goal involves connecting with what some traditions describe as pure consciousness or one's true nature. This goes far beyond the meditation as stress reduction discourse rooted in scientific materialism. This goes far beyond the simplistic attempts to reduce the effect of Kriya Yoga to a hemispheric shift in the brain. This gets into the exploration of consciousness through the medium of meditation, which is such a vast area of exploration as to be virtually inexhaustible. This gets into an understanding of the nature of the socially constructed self, the ego or ahamkara, which is the root of the separate self. This gets into the revealing of one's true essence nature, which is inseparable from the greater whole, and which is rooted in perpetual bliss and pure consciousness. Kriya Yoga is scientific in that its systematic methodology quickly and consistently results in deep meditation, through which deeper states of consciousness are revealed. It provides the keys to the castle of self-realization and awakening. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.